On this week's dose, we welcome on Hoolie Tejwani, head of Coinbase Ventures, which invests in startups to support Coinbase's mission of creating more economic freedom for the world.
First, you'll hear about how Hoolie got connected with Coinbase and why they started the venture arm in the first place.
Yeah, he then gives us a feel for how they sift through the noise of all the crypto waves that come and go, and what has him excited about the cross-section between crypto and AI moving forward.
An exciting cross-section indeed. Stick with us for Hoolie's take on meme coins and also how the new Trump administration is changing the regulatory landscape and what that means for Coinbase and the portfolio.
As we wrap up, it was awesome to hear about what it's like to be part of Coinbase's startup culture, despite it being such a massive public company today. Plus, Hoolie gives us an honest perspective on what things will look like in 5 years when it comes to crypto and AI.
It was truly a pleasure hosting Hoolie on this week's episode. We loved hearing about the exciting future Coinbase Ventures is shaping in crypto and Web3. Without further ado, here's our conversation with Hoolie.
You see here, kid, you gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before. You just gotta bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump.
This is Venture Pill, your weekly dose of startups and venture capital. We break down recent startups in the news and interview founders and investors to help you stay informed in the evolving world of venture.
All right, we now welcome on to this week's dose Hoolie Tejwani, head of Coinbase Ventures, which invests in exceptional entrepreneurs working to advance the crypto and Web3 ecosystem and support Coinbase's mission of creating more economic freedom for the world. Hoolie, we're excited to have you on. How's it going?
Doing great. Excited to chat with both of you.
Yeah, we'll get into a lot, and we generally just like to start with a little bit more of your background. How did you end up connecting with the Coinbase team?
Sure. There's kind of a wilder origin story. I'll keep the shorter one. But I got pretty interested in crypto when I was at grad school at MIT. It was actually part of a student cohort that received free Bitcoin as an experiment from their currency group. And I was one of the idiots that didn't claim it. So then when my classmates were funding fun trips of their Bitcoin, I was like, hey, I should probably pay attention and look into this stuff. But fast forward a bunch, after business school, I was at Bain & Company working in their private equity group, and then at an early stage VC fund called Coinbase Ventures, which is co-founded by Ev Williams, the co-founder of Twitter and Medium. And at the time, I was just kind of like the person that knew the most about crypto, not like trying to be a specialist, but it was the crazy ICO wave. And so I kind of just got thrown on being like, hey, can you figure out this crypto stuff? And I started reading the Bitcoin white paper, the Ethereum white paper, and I had never found something that was just so intellectually absorbing and like fascinating to me. Like thinking about it all day, all night. And just kind of a chance occurrence. There were a bunch of Bain folks who are at Coinbase. I had a random coffee chat with Grant Darcy, who's currently our VP of talent. I'd actually worked for his wife at Bain. And next thing I knew, a week later, I was meeting Emily Choi, Sean Agarwal, Max Brownsberg, like all the leaders of Coinbase, and kind of just went with it. And that's how I first got to Coinbase. I was already pretty bought into crypto and came to believe between crypto, AI, and a few other secular trends, these were like the technology trends that matter for the next 30 years. And that's how it kind of started.
Yeah, so that's an awesome story. And as someone who I at least pride myself on being in on the crypto wave from an early age, especially in those ICO days, it was kind of hard not to take notice and at least be excited to the point of trying to learn more about it. Would love you to give us a feel on Coinbase's thesis and mission. And why did Coinbase start a venture arm in the first place, and maybe what differentiates it from the others?
Sure. So the broader mission at Coinbase is increase economic freedom in the world by bringing the world on chain. Coinbase Ventures itself, it really started as an experiment. And this is major props to Brian and Emily and our leadership team about how we think about repeatable innovation and just trying things. So when Coinbase Ventures started, it was really just a blog post. There's no plan, but a recognition that we're kind of at the epicenter of helping build a broader ecosystem. And so we started off really simple mandate, just support and invest in exceptional founders who are pushing the state of on-chain forward. It was all part-time folks around the company working on it nights and weekends, no dedicated team, just investing a small allocation off the balance sheet. Fast forward, it's been over 6 years now. That experiment's definitely been a success. We've been one of the most active investors in the space. We operate today very much like a traditional kind of like seed Series A fund in terms of how we invest. We also do later stage strategic investments. We've been doing more even earlier kind of first money in Y Combinator type experimentation. And we've made over 500 investments, over 48 countries represented, a lot of the major logos that are notable in the space. And we view it as we're investors, we're financial ROI driven in how we're thinking about allocating capital, but it's also about supporting and building this broader ecosystem of companies, founders, protocols that kind of rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, love that. Love that. The 500 plus companies is impressive, but what we didn't know was the 48 countries. Wow. That's pretty cool too.
Crypto is inherently global, like global by default.
Yeah. Yeah, that is awesome. We kind of had an additional question we were maybe going to save for the end, but you sort of brought it up, and it's like, how do you balance investing in startups that could one day potentially compete with the core business of Coinbase?
Yeah, this is like, I think the most unique thing about how we're set up for Coinbase Ventures, and just a broader mindset that Brian, the founders of the company, have always instilled in us, is really this like abundance, not scarcity mindset. And yes, we have a core business that we're going to, we're a publicly traded company. We have a core business that will continue to build and grow. But it's really about, we're in the early innings of a much broader ecosystem trend and developing like a big crypto economy. So we take a very broad mandate from the investing side. We'll invest in things that to the outside could look competitive to Coinbase, may not look competitive to Coinbase, but we don't know how it's all going to play out. And it's really that like not zero sum mentality. If more people are coming on chain, more capital is coming on chain, it's going to benefit Coinbase. And our core products will compete on their own merits.
Yeah, I like that approach. It's definitely a kind of interesting balance to think about. But ultimately, if there's a promising, crypto related startup, like, you're going to want to get your hands on that and help impact some change there. Getting more into Coinbase Ventures, as you know, there have been lots of waves in the crypto space over the years, and Sam and I had gone to South by Southwest a few times, and felt like every year there was something new within crypto, Web3, and a little bit of AI recently as well. And so as trends inevitably come and go, and bubbles, balloon and then pop, and then a new one fills in, how do you go about sifting through the noise to identify the most promising startups that have, staying power, ideally?
Yeah, I kind of joke that I prefer the crypto winters more than the crypto summers from a signal to noise ratio perspective. But it's all about time horizon. So we've always taken a very long-term view. And yes, you've hit on, there's this intrinsic cyclical nature of crypto and these compressed like Gartner hype cycle bubbles. But a couple thoughts is that, one, in each of the like euphoria phases, the infrastructure and the core innovations that are going to drive the next leg of growth are getting seeded through investment. So taking that long-term view, staying consistent, we actively invest and deploy through all the cycles. If anything, being a little more skeptical in the hype phases and a little more optimistic in the winter phases to balance. But the net through line that we're always looking for, it comes down to like the people and the founders. So like, we're looking for missionaries, not mercenaries. Mm-hmm. Why are you doing this? Are you starting this? Are you working on this because you have a long-term view and you want to build something that is durable and enduring in the world? Or are you kind of chasing the latest short-term narrative? And so we index very heavily on that missionary mindset.
Awesome. And these days, one of the biggest trends, probably the one dominating everything, is AI. And we noticed that you've led Coinbase Ventures through a recent shift towards this crypto plus AI push. Maybe tell us a little bit more about that thesis and how you view the synergies between AI and crypto.
Sure. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a new thesis or a new push, and we have been looking and tracking at the developments in AI for multiple years now. I'd say it's become very active and investable in the past, call it 6 to 12 months. And I'll give a major shout out to Jonathan King on my team, who's led a lot of the thinking and the work here and brought me from like cautious skeptic to believer. But like zooming out, look, like no secret, AI is changing everything, and we're on two different secular growth trends around AI and crypto. We view that they are like complementary, like the DNA of a double helix of a DNA, and how generative AI and the promise of AI can actually get delivered and scaled out to the world in a more trusted, grassroots, user-centric way. There are three main areas or intersection points that we're seeing a lot of activity and we're pretty excited about. So one is, foundationally what I just mentioned, applying blockchain systems, networks, the primitives in crypto to deliver generative AI, everything from like compute to how users have models trained on their data and have attribution around that. And that's very foundational. It's going to be a longer burn, but big ideas. The second is we believe that we're going to be moving to this agentic economy. So agents interacting with each other, bartering for all types of things like digital resources, acting on end user behavior. And it's just very logical that internet native programmable money is going to be a big part of how that agent economy works. And so we're very close to the middle of this. Like our Coinbase developer products group has been working with a lot of startups, developing tools, APIs, SDKs that agent teams can deploy and use to interact on crypto. And then the third area, which will probably get a lot of the like crypto Twitter noise and attention in the near term, is actually taking LLMs, AI agent models, and applying them on chain. So like AI agents can develop smart contracts in real time. They can generate their own meme coins. They can start tweeting at you. And so not too long from now, there will be a completely AI Twitter influencer with a token attached that millions of people are engaging with. That's like the weirder and wilder design space. But those are the three intersection points where if you follow like the smart developers who are hacking nights and weekends, like they're focused on this intersection point. So that's where we are too.
So I didn't intend to have to ask this question, but I just can't resist because we started talking about ICOs and how that was kind of a big first time people were paying attention to the space outside of Bitcoin. It feels like, taking a current events approach, like meme coins, at least, amongst my friends, are like very much in the spotlight. Curious your take, I guess, on them at large, and also any future within VC or Coinbase Ventures. I know some of them eventually get listed onto Coinbase, the platform, but would just love to hear your take on that.
Sure. So I hit it from a couple angles. From a like Coinbase perspective, we don't endorse any specific asset or token, and there's a listing process that's like a total black box to my team, total arm's length on decisions on how they decide to list various assets. My overall take on meme coins and this like phenomena is like, look, well, memes are as old as the internet. One, meme coins have been around since Doge, and some people would argue like Bitcoin is the original meme coin. Like this is a natural human behavior. They're not going to go, like the behavior is not going anywhere. Individual meme coins will rise and decay as fast as like viral tweets. Like it's monetized attention. Some will have like staying power in communities and like cultural cachet. Like something like Doge is a good example. But I view it all as like it's creative experimentation. And the reason that we have this like kind of wave over the past 18 months around is twofold. One, the regulatory uncertainty, especially in the United States, kind of just directed a lot of energy that way because as like Kafka-esque as it sounds, it's like, okay, if you can clearly tell this is not a security if it's a dog coin. So that's where some developer energy went. But two, it's become like almost zero friction, zero cost for anyone to just launch a coin with liquidity and distribute it. And then on the other side, it's become much lower friction for the average user to discover and trade and find them on chain, like through non-custodial interfaces. And so I don't think like the behavior, it's as old as the internet. It's going to be around for a while. It's just another version of like creativity being expressed on the internet. We're not going to take a view where we're investing in individual meme coins, but the platforms that users are going to, that those remain interesting and durable.
Yeah, I think that's a great take. And we even recently saw Trump launch his meme coin. For those that didn't see that, that was pretty crazy. And that's a good segue. We're not going to maybe ask for your comment on that specifically, but more so around the recent shift towards a more crypto-friendly regulatory environment. With the new administration, how do you see Coinbase Ventures adapting its investment strategy to leverage new policy changes? And then what opportunities or challenges do you anticipate emerging from this?
Yeah, it's definitely a very optimistic time coming out of the period that we were in before, which really was just kind of crazy, like regulation by gaslighting, no clarity, no rules of the road. Me and everyone who's been in this industry for a while, we just want clear rules of the road and constructive rules that founders and builders can follow, that both embrace innovation but also protect consumers. We don't want fraud, and the approach to crypto regulation up till now has like not served any of the objectives, right? You had things like FTX happen, and then you had good actors who are, reasonably just trying to drive innovation in the United States get punished in a non like purposeful, like non first principles way. So we're really excited. I think it's a much more constructive tone in Washington. I'm optimistic that hopefully this year we'll get various pieces of legislation passed which do establish more like durable rules of the road. Stable coins, it sounds like, are probably going to be first up there. There's a market structure questions that need to be resolved. But for founders and the folks that we're talking to, it's a very exciting time because there's this uncertainty and like cloud that was hanging over things was just restricting what folks could do, where they could take the design of things. It's never as good as it seems, never as bad as it seems. Like, it's by no means like all the issues have been resolved. It's Washington's a process, legislation's a process, but we have a much more like productive and like optimistic path forward. I think the implications are we just see a lot more great founders being open and energized and interested in building in crypto in the current environment.
Yeah, it certainly is an exciting time. Anecdotally, Sam and I have a group chat with a couple of our buddies where it feels like every day there is new, whether it's legislation or just rumors that might end up being true or not. It's like, just feels like things are rapidly changing and accelerating. And it's really exciting to keep a pulse on what's going on. Before we move on, just want to dig in a little deeper on the Coinbase Ventures portfolio. So question one, as you mentioned, 48 different countries invested in. I guess outside of the US, what are some other countries where you're seeing the most energy towards, crypto related startups? And then on top of that, just curious if there's any portfolio companies that you might be particularly bullish or excited about.
Sure. So on the geographic question, crypto is truly global, like truly global. There are big talent bases and markets across Asia. I think India is very exciting just in terms of the sheer amount of talent that's focused on crypto there. Generally, where there has been, the US has been playing catch up on regulatory clarity. So where you see places like Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai that have been much more front-footed in creating like a friendly sandbox for innovators, there's talent hubs there. And it's frontier markets. We're spending time in Nigeria. It's everywhere. It's something I think about a lot. That being at Coinbase, like I'm an English only speaker, we do have a bit of like an Anglophile bias, and so I'm always kind of like pushing on how do we make sure we're paying attention to everything around the world. But the major hubs, I think, are pretty well known. Specific portfolio companies we're bullish on. It's like picking your favorite kid, but I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I think very excited about many of the companies in our portfolio. I think something I've been reflecting on a lot is we have a really cool Coinbase alumni portfolio effect. So something intrinsic to Coinbase is, and just part of the DNA is like there's a very entrepreneurial like startup mentality that's bred into the company. There's over 100 startups that have been founded by Coinbase alumni. We've actually invested in, I think, about 45 right now. And so those are companies like Dan Romero and Farcaster, Jacob Horn, Zora, Bridge, which Zach Abrams founded, was just acquired by Stripe. So less on the which companies I'm more bullish on, more where I get a lot of pride is seeing being a part-time Coinbase alumni relations person.
Yeah, I realized that was a tough question, but masterfully answered.
Yeah. Yeah, and a great segue. We were seriously wondering what it's like working alongside Brian, Emily, the rest of the innovative leadership team at Coinbase, just knowing how you guys have maintained that nimble startup mindset. It really seems, at least from the outside, as now a large public company. So maybe just give us a glimpse into what that's like being on the inside.
Sure. I think it is something that really makes Coinbase very special, and it comes straight from the top, from Brian, from Emily, from our board. I'll give you like a couple anecdotes of how it comes to life. So there's a huge bias for action inside how we operate here. We use these like decision-making frameworks called Rapids, which actually I think came from Bain originally. About we have a single DRI, directly responsible individual. We don't have like a committee culture. Provide your feedback, provide input, but like there's one clear decision maker for a given decision, and that's how decisions get made. And this other framework called PPS, problem solution. These are just like little day-to-day tools that everyone uses to kind of break down bureaucracy and just like move fast and coordinate. We had this concept of like bureaucracy busters. So like at one point we called the investment voting process Coinbase Investment Committee, and then there was like a blanket ban on committees. Like, no, there's a single decision maker, or like a decision making structure that doesn't go out to committee. So it's very much in the culture. I think another aspect of it is it's a very high performance culture. Like we always say, like we're a professional sports team. We're not a family. That kind of like Netflix culture soundbite. But there's also a very high tolerance for failure. Like yes, experiment. Action creates information. Let's try something is better than like pontificating and overweighting like the risks and downsides. Obviously, we're a big platform. We take extreme care and consideration around we're managing customer funds and regulatory compliance obligations, but there's just a willingness to experiment and try things. I think a really good example there is Base. So Jesse, I worked with Jesse for a while, and originally like he was kind of just off on wandering the desert. I'm like, I have this idea. I'm not sure what it's exactly going to turn out to be, but I know I want to do something big within the walls of Coinbase. He easily could have gone out and started his own company and done something there. And Brian, Emily, the executive team, they gave him like the autonomy, the space to like experiment, develop it. And then it became real. And now it's a major part of like our strategy for Coinbase. So seeing that like entrepreneurialism, creating like the space for folks to experiment, be kind of like internal founders, it's very real.
Yeah, that's awesome. And have to respect the flexibility of Coinbase. Of course, it's a huge company. And like you mentioned, managing tons of dollars, but also being able to keep that entrepreneurial spirit and let people fail forward and just try new things and actually start. Curious to get your input on this one as we kind of segue towards our last couple questions here. Looking 5 years into the future, how do you envision the role of crypto and AI in everyday life?
Wow, that's a great question. And I fancy myself as a bit of a futurist, but I'm also very humble about how, like, we are on these exponential change curves and human beings, myself included, are very bad at projecting out exponential change. I think the world we look at in 5 years with crypto and AI, we can't even really imagine fully and like contextualize it fully in terms of the possibilities that are being opened up. But we're going to be in a world where just like intelligence is everywhere. We have the speed and friction from you wake up, you have an idea, and it is then just real because you have an agent that codes your product, and you're tapped into global liquidity and internet capital markets. It's going to reduce down to a place we can't really imagine. There's going to be like challenges and things to work through around all of it and how this gets delivered in like a safe, responsible way. But yeah, it's a good question that I should probably like do some more like dreaming about. I just know it's going to be very, very different. And individual users and people are just going to be much, much more empowered than they are right now.
It's entirely exciting, scary, confusing all at the same time, and only accelerating. You know, we try to give advice to the pilgrims, which we call the listeners of this show, whenever we can. And I guess we usually just ask general advice, but I quickly wanted to ask, how do you keep up with everything? Like, are you listening to podcasts? Are you reading? Like, how, obviously you're having a lot of conversations with some of the coolest founders and a lot of the innovative projects going on. So that's a little bit unique to you, but how do you recommend like staying up to date with everything that's going on?
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a hard question. You hit on that. I have the coolest job in the world where I have some of the smartest people in the world talking to me and telling me about their ideas all the time. I think finding and having folks who are like just the smartest people in the room and what they're interested in becomes interesting to you. But going back to your previous question, like there's no friction to learning about anything right now, like literally no friction. So like just follow your intellectual curiosity, question the like traditional forms of like how that information has been delivered to you, go straight to the source. I listen to tons of podcasts. I'm on X all the time. But I also like am reading books and white papers and like research documents. I don't have like a silver bullet. I think having some focus around like what is the area that you want to really have like a compounding learning effect is pretty important. It's very, in this day and age, it's very easy to get diluted across a lot of different things. So having some like through line that you're focusing on. Yeah, it's all there. It's all there on your phone. You just gotta direct your attention to it.
Yeah, part of a balanced diet, if you will, of all these different resources and content available. It is crazy how much, like I said before, is circulating and just all the excitement, and things just continue to rapidly change at an accelerating pace. It's an awesome time to be alive, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah. Hoolie, before we let you go, what's the best way for our audience to keep in touch with you, follow along with what's going on at Coinbase Ventures, and reach out if they want?
Yeah, at CB Ventures is our X handle. Follow along there. We have the whole team listed there for ways to get in touch. And if you are excited about the kind of broader mission we're working on, if you're excited about crypto, excited about blockchain technology, and you're excited to build something, we'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Hoolie, this was a great show. One to go down in the books of the Venture Pill history. So we appreciate you coming on with us and spending some time. This will be a good one.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another dose of startups and venture capital. And as always, we appreciate our pilgrims spreading the word about the show. Share with your friends and help someone else make the pilgrimage. See you next time.
She told me that she only bumps my music when she's lonely. makes my vibes a little low-key, okie dokie, that's alright, but wait, I don't know how to do